This is the Podcast Express, and we're talking to whoever's listening out there. Welcome to 5 Minutes of Trouble, the only podcast on the internet that discusses the John Carpenter film Big Trouble in Little China 5 minutes at a time. I'm Josh Horowitz from the Wing Kong Exchange at www.wingkong.net.
And I'm Brett Stillo, noble co-pilot of the Pork Chop Express.
And I am Tom Taylor from the Indiana Jones Minute.
And I'm Gerry Porter from the Indiana Jones Minute.
Yes, welcome, guys. We're very happy to have you on board. We have a special affinity to the Indiana Jones Minute. It was Mr. Pete Mummert from the Indiana Jones Minute who got us really off the ground here. So
he does that.
Everybody here from Indiana Jones, welcome.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's good to be here.
I must point out to our listening audience that Gerry and Tom they're in their Marshall College football uniforms. They're wearing their away jerseys. So they have come to play. This is here.
The away jerseys say California, but the home jerseys say Bristol, Connecticut.
Oh, look at that. That's a nice compliment. Hey, say, wait a minute.
It's all peace and love on the Indiana Jones Minute.
And these are vintage 1936 jerseys, too. So they're like sweaters. They have long sleeves with stripes. And there are no numbers. There are letters, X1 and stuff like that. So.
They're extremely
With the leather cap.
Yeah. Total leather helmet scene.
I also have a pennant that I'm waving back and forth. Is that cool? Is that making too much noise?
Very noisy pennant.
Sorry. I'll stop.
I think if you count Christie, it's the Four Horsemen.
Oh, nice. Nice. So, gentlemen, confession time. How many times have you seen Big Trouble in Little China?
Gerry, do you want to go first?
Well, if I thought this was going to be a Inquisition.
What's with the third degree?
Actually, I have never seen Big Trouble in Little China until this week at your invitation.
Oh.
Yeah.
I said, well, hey, this would be an opportunity to watch Big Trouble in Little China. And I knew essentially nothing about the movie. I knew that it had, like I knew of the movie, and I knew it had like, oh, yeah, there's like some, like a bunch of people who kind of like that. But I've never seen it, didn't see it, when it came out, had no idea what type of movie it was or anything about it. I just figured that there was some sort of Rumpus in Little China.
Definitely Rumpus. Actually, that's going to be a good type of outlook on this. A lot of people seem to be introduced to this movie for the first time, even though this is 30 years old. So, I'm very curious to hear what you think.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I earlier this summer, I went with my friend Mark Heidemann to see John Carpenter in concert. He was traveling around just doing music from his movies, and it was actually incredible. It was really cool. And I came away with realizing there were two gaping, gaps in my John Carpenter knowledge. One was Assault on Precinct 13, and the other was Big Trouble in Little China. I'm like, I've never seen Big Trouble in Little China. How is that possible? And it was still on the back burner until you guys called up and said, hey, we're doing Big Trouble in Little China. I'm like, all right, this is it. Now I got to finally see this movie. And having seen it, I'm like, God, how did I not see this movie? Like for the past 20, 30 years. It seems like definitely Gerry and I'm surprised we didn't see it when he'd like visit me or something. We would just go see movies all the time. This would be exactly the sort of thing we would have seen.
Well, that's great. This is going to be a nice, fresh outlook on things. And the minutes that we're discussing in this case are minutes 30 through 35. And minutes 30 begins with Jack Burton disguised as Henry Swanson joking about how his visit to the White Tigers is not deductible. And they end with Jack and Wang outside of the Wing Kong Exchange saying how their plans will take total concentration. These minutes introduce a kind of a different version of Jack Burton as this Henry Swanson character. Yeah,
I love Henry Swanson. I think I may love Henry Swanson more than Jack Burton.
I'm glad to hear you say that because there is something about Henry Swanson that I like Jack Burton, but a lot of the first time I watched this, a week or so ago, I was like, okay, I see what Jack Burton's doing. He's like a kind of funny, he's being a tough guy. He's being a sly, cool guy, and he's got a lot of one-liners. And okay, fine. But then when you see Henry Swanson, like his one-liners are actually really funny. Like they get funnier when he's this guy because he's being funny. He kind of is in on his own joke and he's being funny.
We actually had an interesting discussion about Henry Swanson during the last episode. Desmond Miller was making a suggestion, I think it was, that maybe Henry Swanson is Jack Burton's true identity, and that he's just sort of playing Jack Burton as his role.
That's funny.
I've always wanted to be a truck driver. Drive to San Francisco, and maybe I'll meet Chinese prostitutes.
Two-fisted.
Yeah. Green eyes. But I said this last week. I mean, one thing that I like about Henry Swanson is he seems to come right out of the Disney movies from the early 70s that Kurt Russell was in.
Yeah.
I picture Joe Flynn or Phil Silvers,
Wow,
one of those
yeah.
guys. He just looks like a teacher in the computer wore tennis shoes or something like that.
Yeah. We were watching those recently. Those are good.
Yeah, those are fun movies.
Strongest Man in the World.
Yeah, Strongest Man in the World. Now You See Him, Now You Don't.
Right.
You guys want to hear some Disney movie trivia?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
There's a slight connection to Marshall College.
Oh.
Because basically all the Disney collegiate movies, starting with The Absent-Minded Professor, are set at, I believe it's called Midvale College.
Mhm.
So there is a bit of a canon there with Disney movies. Kurt Russell's Strongest Man in the World and Fred MacMurray's Absent-Minded Professor, same college.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
I never put that together. That's awesome.
It's not really well known, but there is this like continuity there that and I think also there was it The Monkey's Uncle with Annette Funicello, also I believe Midvale College. So I'm working on fan fiction about this, of course.
I was gonna say they never did a Disney cinematic universe where they all come together and Avengers style and battle evil with their goofy invention talking animal things.
It's way overdue.
Wow.
And now that Disney owns Indiana Jones, Midvale and Marshall could be a cross tie-in. Like they could be old rivals. We could have that football game.
Oh, do you think? I feel like there might be something like blending Indiana Jones and Escape from Witch Mountain.
Ooh.
Interesting.
I could
As
see
long
that.
as there are no crystal skulls involved.
Well, actually, you know what? I think that is Escape from Witch Mountain.
Bang!
Forget it. They already did it.
Hey, speaking of which, isn't the girl from Escape from Witch Mountain? Doesn't she get killed in Assault in Precinct 13?
Yeah.
Oh, the
Kim,
times,
full
they
circle.
never end.
Yeah. This is a spinning torrent.
Yes.
And right now, we're actually 4 puppets in a box being controlled by Pete Mummert.
It figures.
Yeah.
I've had that.
All a
nightmare.
Twilight Zone thing.
Crafty son of a.
Yeah. Pulling all the strings.
Oh, and actually, as we record this, the Wrath of Khan guys just witnessed. Oh, with Pete, I think, witnessed the death of Scotty's nephew, who was the other kid from Witch Mountain.
Whoa.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
I feel the icy hand of movie trivia on my throat.
There is only one movie with many faces.
Well, if we're talking about trivia, we can actually talk a little bit about the actress who plays the White Tiger. She's played by actress June Kyoto Liu. And just a little quick thing about her. She's credited as June Kim in the film. She's been known for her roles in Menace to Society, Lady in the Water, and Blood Work. But she's probably best known to fans of TV's Lost as Mrs. Pike, Sun's mother, or Sun.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And she was also she was in the movie 18 Fingers of Death with martial arts choreographer James Liu, who was in this film. So there's,
very cool.
There's the White Tiger for you.
And that's Mrs. O'Toole will take care of your needs. That's the White Tiger. You know, Mrs. O'Toole is Noel Toy with the amazing blue eyeshadow.
Yeah, Mrs. O'Toole is the one at the front desk. Yeah, no, the White Tiger, I believe, is the one standing up with the big red dress.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, she's, total throwback. She's like straight out of the 1930s, the image of the dragon lady. The only thing she's missing is the long cigarette holder.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the YouTube video that you sent, I don't know if you want to talk about that, but that was incredible.
Yeah. Well, again, I mentioned Josh broke the story that Mrs. O'Toole, Noel Toy, was a burlesque performer in the 30s and 40s. She was sort of the West Coast Sally Rand, and I just I was just cruising down YouTube, minding my own business, when I came across a 1940, probably from a newsreel, film of Noelle Toy. She was probably 21 at the time, performing the classic fan dance at Treasure Island in San Francisco. Wow. And I will not share it with the rest of you. This is a clean show, so you'll have to find it on your own. I won't condone such things, but no, we'll throw a link at you. But it's pretty cool. But it's also a little mind-blowing that here's this kind of funny old lady with blue eyeshadow, and 46 years earlier, she's cutting the rug, so to speak.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I saw when I woke up this morning.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give it away, but I thought, now she's naked in between two tulips.
I like two
clamshells.
They're like
big
feather
you've never
fans.
seen that? Yeah, exactly. Like I think I say that like, oh, you've never seen that, but I think I've only seen it being made fun of by Bugs Bunny or something.
Yeah,
that's like a thing.
You've never seen that?
Go back in time to the 40s and go to a speakeasy and
you weren't on Treasure Island in 1926.
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
It's like classic burlesque. Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
Jack mentions at one point that there's, that he wants a girl with green eyes, and immediately you hear that thunder sound effect. This is something that happens a lot during the film. It's that sort of callback to the cartoony nature of things. Anytime there's a key moment, you hear the thunder and then you see the lightning.
Oh, I didn't notice that this time though. That's cool. And if I can I go back like one? You probably talked about this a little bit last minute, but right before our minutes here, he's like looking through a binder of pictures, I guess, of the girls here at the brothel. I'm going to admit I've never been to a brothel. I'm just going to put that out there.
That's okay.
Promise. So I don't know.
Okay.
Is this something that actually do you actually get to go through like a little catalog and be like, oh, all right. And by the way, if that's true, then Jack is totally right. They should be in color because come on, you want a full representation of what you're getting. But then it's weird because he says, like, the second he says, I'm looking for somebody with green eyes, and Mrs. O'Toole says, Chinese girls do not come with green eyes, which makes it sound so much like a product, like he's buying a car or something. Like, they don't have white walls, they don't have green eyes, they don't have automatic windows, they don't come with these things. Like, oh, is that extra? If I pay extra, do I get them with green eyes?
Yeah. They do come with lots of turquoise eyeshadow.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah.
That was spray painted on.
I actually have a little note about Chinese girls with green eyes. I was looking a little bit up on the internet about this, and it turns out that there are some Chinese girls that have green eyes. It could be due to a genetic mutation, or it could be due to mixed heritage. And there was actually a Daily Mail article that I saw where they were talking about green-eyed Chinese from the Liquian region, which is part of northern China, and they might be descendants of a lost Roman legion that settled in parts of China.
Whoa.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Sequel.
Well, we could have avoided this whole thing. He just vacationed to that province. So everybody could have, they all could have gotten the demon curse, alleviated.
It would have saved Lopan a lot of grief.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you're here all the time? Ah!
Yeah, it's weird that his whole thing, his whole I don't know what you call it, the curse that he's trying to overcome hinges on like a chance, mutation, that might have been caused by some Roman invaders or something. It's like, oh, what are the chances of that? He's lucky he's got any out at all.
Yeah.
Well, you want to say Lopan, you should have just walked out your door and maybe down the block a little.
Yeah, put up some posters,
Yeah, stop looking for, your bride at the block party.
You need to get out more, boss. I mean, I know you don't have a body, but come on, live a little. Go see a movie. Raiders of the Lost Ark is playing down the street. Whoops.
And then the minute that Jack mentions the girls with green eyes, you get that kind of conspiratorial look coming from the White Tiger, and accompanied by the sort of cool John Carpenter repeating moody music. And then we get our first glimpse of Miao Yin as she's tied up and inside that sort of secret Batman style panel, a secret chamber.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing that, I think I got to say, this might get ugly here. We might get into an argument. Big
Uh-oh.
Trouble has over Raiders is a cool secret panel.
Mm.
That's a really good point. I mean, they kind of fix that in later movies, but yeah, no, Raiders does not have any cool secret panels.
Yeah. And this is
not
like,
right,
this secret panel is like your classic, sliding wooden wall, 1930s, 1940s secret panel.
Yeah. Every time I see a secret panel like that, I always think, gosh, is no one ever going to accidentally find that? Is that really well hidden? I mean, usually they are, but I always get nervous. I'm like, I mean, if somebody's like dusting, are they accidentally going to hit the trigger thing or something? It's going to open up and all the secrets will be lost.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, now in California, there's a state law that, there has to be a neon sign that illuminates where the secret panel is.
You have a sign on your mailbox saying that this house contains secret panels, which totally defeats the purpose. But
Well, I had a question. So John Carpenter, he usually or always does his own music.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so I'm assuming this is John Carpenter's music here.
Mhm.
And I was listening to it and I'm like, God, this sounds exactly like John Carpenter, but like he's stuck in the 80s.
yeah, well, he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very.
But
very simple.
what's interesting is some of his other, the scores for his other movies don't sound anything like that. I mean, they sound like John Carpenter, but they sound more timeless. Like, Halloween is always scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was scary 30 years ago. It was scary 5 years ago. It's going to be scary 50 years from now.
Yeah.
But this kind of sounded a little bit more dated or something. But I could still tell. I didn't say it was bad. It just, you could tell that it came from, I was like, oh, this is a movie from the 80s.
Yeah.
I think that's true of a lot of music from the 80s, though. That it, like, I think people are getting into like synthesizers in different ways and stuff.
Mhm.
And I keep thinking that this sounds exactly, this and the theme song at the end over the credits sound exactly like John Carpenter by way of 80s Devo. And I love Devo, and I like a lot of 80s Devo, but it's, a lot of it's like, okay, I get it. It's a little too of its time. But yeah, I know what you're saying, Gerry. It's steeped in its time, I guess.
Yeah, I liked it. It was good. I just noticed that it sounded like it was from the 80s. You're like, oh, he wrote this in 1986.
I as I recall, this one, soundtrack-wise, he did collaborate with Alan Howarth. I don't know who did what, but so, maybe he didn't have, this was a big production, so maybe he just didn't have the time he wanted or needed. And
I feel like he did that a lot. I feel like if you look at a lot of his soundtracks, or maybe it's mostly like, post a certain point, like a lot of 80s stuff or something, that he collaborated with that guy, with Alan Howarth, is that it?
Alan Howarth.
Howarth, yeah. Yeah, so I wonder if he was like some big, synthesizer guy, and like his contribution was sort of like a, new sounds to work with in the score or something like that.
Not making it timeless.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just lock it down in the 80s as much as you can. Press that button.
We need to come up with a sound that'll say 1986, 30 years from now.
Yeah, we want to date this as hard as we can.
I never really noticed this before until I started looking at this so closely, but Miao Yin's got a pretty bruised up face. She's been beat up pretty bad.
Yeah, and she's tied up in a scary little room. She's having a hard time.
Never noticed the bruises before.
I don't think I did either, actually.
Yeah.
She looks sad.
Makes it all that much more tragic, but it's punctuated by the little chime sound when she blinks her eyes, reminding us she's got green eyes. We gotta have these reminders.
Your eyes don't make a sound when you blink?
Actually, it kind of reminded me of the scene in Indiana Jones when the smoke is blown in Toad's face. All these little nuances. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But then moving on, we get a scene. We see how impatient Wang is. They're ready to just go in there, and then back to Jack, and notice that he takes off his glasses, and once he does, he drops the Henry Swanson facade.
Right, he's sort of in now. He's infiltrated the place, so he can get into like investigator mode.
Mm-hmm.
But he still manages. Even we were saying like maybe as Henry Swanson comes up with the best lines, he's still got the best line in the movie, I think. As this guy, she says, "Please take off your tie." It's like, yeah, I know, my wife gave it to me for Christmas. That's hysterical.
Yeah,
That is the best. It's the second best line in the movie.
I got to admit, there's so many great one-liners. That one I kind of missed. I didn't really catch it until watching it this time. It's like, oh yeah, that is a good one.
I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. One thing about the one-liners I got to say is, I watched the movie all the way through, like a week ago or so, and I liked it. I was like, oh, I kind of missed the boat on this. This is definitely like a cult thing. People have been loving this for years. I'm new to it, so I got to catch up a little bit in my head about how to appreciate it and stuff. But then I was watching more of it just today to kind of get ready for this. I was like, oh, I love this movie. This is great. Like some of the lines that I kind of dismissed earlier, like, you know what I say when it's Miller time, and then he just gets cut off. That's hysterical. Yeah. That is so good. And right after that, when the guy pulls out the kind of switch club thing, he's like, where'd you get that? Or something. Like this, I think a lot of the stuff the first time I was kind of like, okay, Kurt Russell, okay, Jack Burton, you're being kind of glib or whatever. It's not totally landing for me. But then the second time I'm like, oh, okay, no, this is awesome. Yeah. He's being great.
Yeah, and that's a testament, I think, to W.D. Richter's script.
Yeah,
those lines and many of the other ones are actually scripted. Yeah,
it's I feel the same way watching it for the first time this week, and then having to going over and watching the scenes again. It's a little bit like Truffles. It's like at first you're like, oh man, I don't know, that sounds weird. This, I don't know what this is doing.
Yeah,
and then later you're like, hey, can we get some truffle on this? Can we get some of that truffle oil? Where's the truffle oil? You're like Burger King. Where's it? Do you guys have truffle oil? I'm not gonna eat this without truffle oil.
Go ahead.
But yeah, I mean, it's the one-liners are hysterical, and they just come out and fall on the ground.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Yeah, I think it goes to the what you guys have been talking about a lot. How people may have gone into the theater expecting one kind of movie, and then they really didn't know what to do with what they got. They were like, oh wait, is this a straight up comedy? Is this just sort of having fun, or am I supposed to be taking this totally seriously? So I think you might need one viewing to sort of get yourself primed and to sort of know what to expect. And the next time you're kind of into it for what it is.
Yeah, we were discussing this before in previous minutes. It's almost like The Big Lebowski, for instance. You may not get it the first time, but you watch it a couple more and you start to really appreciate it and know those lines and stuff.
God, he had one where he opens the door and there's like an army of guys outside.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, they're getting ready to go, and he shuts the door and he goes, I think we may be trapped.
Yeah, that's coming. That's one of the better ones.
I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead, but it's just that it was really funny.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question though about this tie stuff. What do you think? What do you think that the that lady of the evening was actually saying when she's like, take it, why don't you take your tie, or take your tie off? Why your tie?
Well, she's telling him to get undressed.
Is she saying get fully undressed?
Yeah.
But does she know that all men who come in there, their wives give them the tie?
We don't need your wife's reminders.
Yeah, is she, maybe she's just saying why don't you untie your guilt?
Yeah. Right. Put your guilt under the bed.
I think just to quote Frankie Goes to Hollywood, she's just basically saying relax.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
There you go.
All right.
Loosen up.
Loosen your tie.
And the loosening up happens until we get a reminder that this is California, this is San Francisco, and we get an earthquake. Or is it an earthquake?
Yeah, something like that. I was wondering, is that what everyone in the building goes nuts and starts running? Do they just think that there's an earthquake going on? Or do they know that something green and crazy is going on?
I think it's just the earthquake. We do see the green flame and that glow on the top of the building, but it's until the ceiling opens up. Yeah, I think they just think it's a big earthquake.
Yeah.
That was something else I noticed in this viewing. When we see that green flash, and it's more like sort of a expanding green jellyfish. And, with everything going on, it's like, that was a really cool effect. It was translucent. Yeah. You could see little specks. And, it reminded me of, this is an 80s movie. And one of the things that just, made us run to the theaters in the 80s was, here's this summer's effects movie. And, what effects are going to be in this? And, there was that expectation as kids, yeah, I want my jaw to drop. What are they going to do in this one?
Right.
Yeah.
Pre-digital, pre-CGI world, it was like, what effect are they going to come up with this year?
Yeah, and a lot of that was Richard Edlund, who
That's
we
right.
were just talking about on Indiana Jones. He did the stuff for that. He did this. He did all the Star Wars. Did some Ghostbusters. You can see all that stuff kind of, where there's a lot of glowy green stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tom, it's interesting you mentioned Ghostbusters. That was what I had in my notes. You see this upward shot of the building and the green, and that was the first thing I thought. This could be Ghostbusters right there.
Yeah.
Totally.
I feel like these guys, like the ILM guys, were constantly trying to top themselves. Like they did. You see, of course, a lot of lightning in this movie, and you think about the blue lightning in Return of the Jedi. I said this a couple episodes back. That was pretty cool. But, and we're going to see in just a moment, there's blue lightning that's, it's totally animated and whipping around and it's looping around people. And I think, I would imagine Edlund and Murin and all those guys, when they got this script, and oh yeah, blue lightning. Yeah, we can top that. They were trying to top themselves.
I think it looks great. And I think it looks like very electrical and not anime. I'm sure it is animated in some way, but it doesn't look like cartoonish at all.
No, not at all.
It looks very like active and alive and hot and electrical.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
The way it, it circles around Mao Yin's bed, and it's alive. It's alive.
Yeah.
Totally.
Oh, can I just say that I love the 3 storms? Does that go without saying?
Oh yeah.
The storms are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
They drive me. I mean, I'm sure you've talked about them a lot already, but they're so. I got to get my 2 cents in. They're so cool and so weird, and I don't know if anything about them is like authentically from Chinese history or heritage or anything or any kind of tradition. But it looks incredible to me, and it's like weird enough to be nuts, but also to be I don't know, like just legitimately cool and weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the costumes do come from, research stuff on Chinese history and Chinese mythology.
Okay.
Is that right? I wondered about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like the obviously the hats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those very distinct hats.
Yeah.
And they help sell it with their expressions. They look so
totally
authentically ticked off.
Yeah, just intense.
Yeah.
They're just so intense.
How
And like,
Yeah. How dare you not have a hole in the roof that we can fall through? We got to make our own holes.
Yeah. McFly, I come over here to kidnap the Green Eyed Girl, and you don't have a hole in the ceiling.
Yeah.
Before the storms come in, I had some notes here that was, just when it takes a shot of Miao Yin, you see that the bed's bouncing around like something out of Poltergeist. I'm wondering what the actress Susie Pye was thinking during this scene. I can imagine, there were like these stage hands that were rocking the bed from beneath the scene, back and forth.
I had a question about that because I watched the bed is roiling around really unnaturally.
Mm-hmm.
Like I almost wondered how they did that. It's like it's not an earthquake.
Yeah, right.
And it's weird. It's like somebody. I wonder if there were strings or something on, and they kept yanking it up or something. It looks really strange.
There might have been stuff behind the walls or something. I think that's what they did in The Exorcist. They had like the whole thing was on poles, and like through the wall they were lifting it up and shaking it around and stuff. Might be something like that.
You mentioned Exorcist. This sequence is, Carpenter, I think, is rolling up his sleeves and doing some horror stuff. It's pretty, the bed shaking around, pretty scary, pretty intense. When I first saw this, my initial reaction was I thought something bad was going to happen to Mao Yin. Like she might not make it through the movie. This might be it for her. So it's a pretty intense moment.
Yeah, there's a blood curdling scream.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the white tiger, she gets that awesome scream, and then she gets zapped by lightning. And it's got that cool look where it almost looks like it's retracting like a whip before it strikes her.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Now, do you think, were they aiming at her to get rid of her, to get her out of the way, or was that just sort of like an errant blast of lightning that happened to get her?
That looks like a pretty clse aim there.
It kind of does.
It was totally on purpose. It was totally on purpose.
I think it hit her in the bum.
Well, it hit her so hard that she actually flies through the wall, breaking the wall.
Yeah.
Now, can I ask a really newbie question about this? Because I had the first time I watched this, I had a really hard time keeping track of like the different. Okay, so they're in the airport. I have to go all the way back to the airport. There's all these gangs. There's the Lords of Death.
Mm-hmm.
I think I understand this now. Tell me, I'll just say what I think is going on. You tell me if I'm right. The Lords of Death. That's their name, right? The guys in the airport. Yep. They kidnap Mao Ying. Is that her name?
Miao Yin. Yep.
Mao Yin. They take her to this brothel just because they're street toughs. They got like regular organized crime stuff. They're like, oh, we got a hot girl we can take to the brothel and just kidnap her, and that's part of our general malfeasance business of being street toughs. Mm-hmm. But then unassociated with that, you've got the two gangs. The good guys are the Chang Sin. They're good guys. The bad guys are the Wing Kong.
Mm-hmm. Then
Lo Pan, not to skip ahead, but Lo Pan, the human form of Lo Pan, runs the Wing Kong, right?
Yeah. Yes.
But then he's also got the Storms working for him, sort of in his sorcerer mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kinda.
Yeah.
So okay, so unassociated with Lo Pan, these Lords of Death kidnapped her and brought her to the brothel. And now Lo Pan somehow has found out, oh, there's a Chinese girl with green eyes. I need one of those. And he sends the Storms after her to get her and take her out of there. Is that right?
Yeah.
Hey, look at me.
You get an ass.
Everyone's listening. All the Big Trouble in Little China fans are going, yes, good for you. You got it. Look at you. You watched a movie. Congratulations.
For your first viewing, that's pretty impressive.
Well, I had to read a little bit.
It took me 30 years before I put it together.
Oh, okay. Now I feel good.
You get an A.
Actually,
thank you.
You know what? One of the things that we were talking about from before, how is it that the Storms even knew how to come into that alley during that scene? But if you'll remember, there's that one little scene where you see this old man wearing a hat, kind of smiling, very, very quick. And then we were speculating that was probably Lo Pan in yet another disguise, just kind of spying on things.
Oh,
so maybe
interesting.
He also had spies that happened to be in the White Tiger, and that's how we knew.
That's not hard to imagine. Even if he's just like a human crime boss, that's not hard to imagine that he has eyes everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I'll bet you Mrs. O'Toole tipped him off.
Oh, maybe. Interesting. An inside job.
Yeah.
You can't trust anybody. This is depressing.
Well, they give that away with the Big Trouble in Little China title.
You walk in knowing that
Big Rumpus in Little China.
Yeah.
So what happens then? The Storms, they fly down through the holes. You get some great John Carpenter Storms music. This repeating synth thing. We'll actually hear this theme again near the end of the film when Egg uses that crossbow grappling hook and the heroes escape. But you get this great close-up then of Lightning's belt, because Lightning is the one who comes down and frees Miao Yin. And he pulls out this knife, and you get this cool Chinese mask with the teeth. I didn't really focus on that before.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool costume stuff that they've got.
I thought maybe he'd borrowed that from Gene Simmons, but
some other neat thing that happens. Jack decides he's going to be the hero. He stuck around, everybody else left, and he faces Rain. And I love the fact that he takes the little time to raise up Rain's hat, and then he throws those two punches that have no effect.
Yeah. It kind of has to raise the hat if he's going to punch him. That thing covers the whole head.
Yeah.
He's got that great little smile and a little nod of acknowledgement before he gets kicked and flies backwards 20 feet.
Yeah. Oh, this is going to happen now. Okay.
And two things come to mind there. That's an old bit. I'm going to punch the big guy, nothing's going to happen. But they make it seem fresh and funny, and we like it. And to me, with like Russell's reaction, that little smile, that's a total indie moment.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
That's a great scene. He just kind of opens it, peels back his hat, like just a little part of his hat. And
it's that smile. Hi. It's perfect reaction.
Yeah.
And we talked about this a few episodes back, and I don't know if you guys have ever come across this, but to me, Russell would have made a good Indiana Jones had it worked out differently. And I haven't ever found anything if he had tried out or auditioned, or if they had considered him for the role, or maybe he was Snake Plissken. at that time, so he wasn't available. But
Oh, interesting.
been meaning to just look that up because if I was Steven Spielberg, and I fantasize about this a lot, if I was Steven Spielberg, the Russell would be along, near the top of my list. It all worked out fine.
Yeah.
I like the other guy as Indy. He did a pretty good job.
He did okay.
Yeah.
He's no Tom Selleck, but he did fine.
No.
Although Kurt Russell did try out for Han Solo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And that would have been, I could easily see him as Han Solo. Maybe even more so than Indy, because he's just got that kind of, like, you'd almost be sort of Jack Burton about it.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, oh, whatever, stupid rebellion. Just give me my money.
Yeah, give me my money. I'm going home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My first note on this whole movie was just in general, just generally speaking, is Kurt Russell like a good-looking guy?
Yeah.
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 Well, I think so too. But you see him in this, and it's like, God, is that Kurt Russell? Like, what happened to Kurt Russell?
What do you mean?
It's just like I feel like it's like you're visiting the 80s.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't heard or thought about Kurt Russell in 20 years.
He's around.
Yeah.
He's still doing stuff.
Is
He
he?
was just in Quentin Tarantino's last movie. He's got a big mustache.
Oh yeah, he was great. I saw that. And then up until that point, I'm like, is that Kurt Russell? I haven't thought of Kurt Russell. But I mean, in this, like in the 80s, he was ubiquitous.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're like, oh, he could have been in Han Solo.
Yeah.
He could have been Indiana Jones. I mean, you're like, that's how prominent he was.
Does he have one of the greatest Hollywood careers ever? Like, he's almost like kind of Ron Howard, like starting off as a child star and then just consistently working like in kind of A-list stuff for the rest of his life so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It's kind of impressive.
very similar to Ron Howard, and still working today and still doing great stuff.
Yeah.
He had that amazing line, give my regards to King Tut. Before he...
That was not an amazing line.
I think that was the last movie before The Hateful Eight. That was the last movie I saw him in.
Oh, Stargate.
Oh,
I was
God.
thinking Bubba Hotep. He was in that one too. Didn't he play Elvis?
Yeah, he was in Star. Yeah. That was really horrible.
You know what I feel with Kurt Russell? Maybe what happened was, because like you said, Gerry, he was everywhere. He was an A-list guy, and I think I wonder if he just kind of got tired of trying to play that leading man, like working out and being in the front, and he's maybe he just relaxed and said, I'd rather do character roles. I'd rather do interesting movies than try to be a star and a big hit. And, like his roles in the Quentin Tarantino movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm not knocking Kurt Russell. I love Kurt Russell. It's just I feel like growing up, he was all over the place.
Right.
And then I just feel less so.
Yeah, that's a natural, lifespan. I mean, Harrison Ford. I mean, even he, like, until Force Awakens, he was sort of like, kind of here and there, like in lesser movies, sort of. They get to a point where you're like, all right, we moved on.
Yeah.
You had your couple of decades of awesome stardom.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to touch Burt Reynolds, by the way. Can we just notice that has nothing to do with anything? I think Burt Reynolds still has the record of 7 years straight as the top Hollywood actor, like the highest grossing actor. 7 years in a row.
Yeah.
Nobody will ever touch him.
But I think a guy like Burt Reynolds, though, he might have had trouble letting go of that when he wasn't on that A-list. And I just feel like, guys like Ford and guys like Russell, maybe it's just their demeanor on screen, but they just seem like, I'd rather go fishing. It's okay.
Yeah, I can take it or leave it.
Yeah, take it or leave it. And
I'm in a top box office draw. Okay, good. All right. Oh, I'm a extra in this character kind of piece. Okay, cool, good.
Oh, is he still married to Goldie Hawn?
I don't think they ever got married specifically.
Yeah, that's right.
But they've been together this whole time. Yeah.
Yeah, but the last I heard, they're still a thing.
Yeah.
All right.
I still get Christmas cards from them, so I just every year.
Well, back to the minutes from Jack's, big tumble sort of out from that kick. We then see Lightning freeing Miao Yin, and she she promptly gets zapped with lightning as he cuts her loose. So my question is, now why didn't rain or thunder get this job of freeing Miao Yin? I mean, what if Miao Yin were brought to Lopan fried to a crisp?
He seems to have like pretty good control over all that. I don't think he would. I think he can keep from accidentally zapping people. Maybe.
Yeah, so maybe she just sort of feels static electricity or something.
Yeah, it just looks.
It looks
pretty
cool.
For a second.
It's a neat effect. The
It
whole
is.
lightning that they do in this, the animated stuff, is pretty cool.
And it sounds like Tempest. It sounds like Firing in Tempest, the video game. One thing about the storms that I really wish they have those awesome knives, those kind of like really thick curved knives. That he uses it here to cut her loose. They look so plastic and not sharp at all. It's really disappointing. And they make me think of the Gerry, you'll know what I'm going to say. They make me think of the Klingon dagger in Star Trek 3 that he uses to kill David. Spoilers for Star Trek 3. You see it like it kind of like shinks open, like it's got moving blades, and it's so just like dull plastic, and like it just doesn't look sharp at all, and it's disappointing. And that's kind of what these are like too. But I mean, they look cool. They look super cool, and like that first time you see them, they do that flip, and then they throw them, and that's super awesome. I just wish they looked sharp and looked metallic. But you can't have everything.
No,
they have cool hats.
Well, that almost ends the part where they're in the White Tigers. Jack emerges in a daze. The storms fly out, and it's over. Should we move on to Gracie's apartment?
Sure.
All right. So we go there. We notice that Jack's not doing well at all. You see, Wang and Gracie are holding Jack up by the shoulders before they dump him into this lazy boy.
Yeah.
And then Gracie gives Jack a milkshake. Here, drink, and spills it all over his shirt.
Is it milk or is it a milkshake or what? What is that?
Well, actually, I have some info on this one. I was looking into the screenplay, and the screenplay does expand on this. Gracie describes the drink as a protein powder, skim milk, and a little dried seahorse and some ground deer horn.
I wondered if it was something like that because it was. I thought it was milk, but then I'm like, no, she has it in like a big glass pitcher. Or almost like a blender thing, maybe. I couldn't tell what it was, and like this just seems like a weird way to be carting around milk and stuff. And there seemed to be more business made out of it than if it was just a glass of milk. So it's weird that they cut that out. Because that seems like a naturally funny part of that scene.
Yeah, there's more coming in this part where in the screenplay, but talking a little bit more about this, then we get tons and tons of exposition.
Oh my God, yeah. Like every single line that's spoken in the scene is like, oh, Gerry, we're going to be on 5 Minutes of Trouble. 5 Minutes of Trouble, the podcast in which they cover Big Trouble in Little China 5 minutes at a time once a week? Yes, that's the one, Gerry.
Yeah. I call it the exposition explosion.
Yeah.
Because it's so, they're addressing the audience, but they're not. And they also seem to be having fun with it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of key to it. Like it goes like the sort of like, oh, we're doing a kind of hokey 40s kind of thing, like a little bit overactory, but we're acknowledging it in the way that we're overacting, and we're having a fun time.
Yeah. It's just me, Gracie Law, social justice worker and career girl.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It says so on your T-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like these exposition scenes were written by Stan Lee.
Yeah, totally. But it's and I feel was it monumentally ignorant? Was that the word she used?
No,
monumentally naive. Yeah,
naive. That was it. Monumentally naive.
Yeah.
Now we do get our first reference of Lopan as Mr. David Lopan. So why David? It's a very Western name to go with a very Eastern last name. So what's up with David?
Maybe that was to facilitate his import-export business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll do business with David Lopan. Sounds like a good guy.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like
Sounds like he keeps a foot here and a foot over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lopan, that's French, isn't it?
Sure.
David Lopan.
What is pan? Isn't that bread?
One thing in this scene that I couldn't take my eyes off of was that glass that Gracie gives to Jack. The weird design on it. I think I had an aunt with a whole set of glasses like that. There's a matching TV tray that goes with that glass and plates.
Oh, totally with it. Yeah. keep it fancy.
I mean, this scene I thought had the best line in the movie, which is, "I know there's a problem with your face."
That was awesome. That was great.
Yeah.
That's another one.
Like, I watched that several times.
That makes her quiet pretty quick.
Yeah. And that's another one that just goes by at 90 miles an hour that Russell delivers just, he bullseyes it.
Exactly.
And, and again, that was another one that I don't think I'd ever really noticed, until reviewing it this morning. It was like, oh, he got that one too.
There's a problem with your face.
A lot of zingers.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's just a monumentally unnaive, great comedic performance by Kurt Russell.
Yeah. I have a question about Margot, and I feel mean asking it. Is there a reason for Margot to be in the movie? Does she do anything in this movie?
She's Eddie's love interest.
Okay, is there a reason for Eddie to be in the movie? Does Eddie do anything in this movie?
He's the maitre d' and a whole lot more.
No, I buy Eddie a lot more. Eddie at least is like a kind of foil, kind of, he's a little bit of an information guy and stuff, and you can sort of people bounce things off it. But Margot, I don't know. Like after I watched the movie, I'm like, I was watching it again. I'm like, oh yeah, there's Margot. Wait, Margot doesn't do a thing in this movie, does she? Like it's a whole thing made up about like her. Oh, this is her big break. She's a reporter. She's gonna get to the bottom of this thing, but it never really goes anywhere.
We were discussing this a little bit in the last episode.
Okay.
If anything, she's sort of like the third outsider in the movie. She's also kind of caught up in everything that's going on and is trying to sort of grasp it all. She's only one of three white characters in this film.
That's true.
So, but yeah, I mean, all we really know is that she's trying to get her big break. She's from the Berkeley People's Herald, which I tried to look up and see if there was anything like that, but no. Yeah, no, that's a good question. I don't know.
On the same line of questioning, the other girl in the other room who Kim Cattrall was picking up at the airport, she has nothing to do with anything either, does she? I'm not I'm just, as part of the plot, she was just sort of like, I'm not sure what she's doing there.
She's part of the kind of expanded story as to what Gracie is out doing, because she was saying that she was protecting Tara's civil rights.
Okay.
She's in the expanded storyline. She's trying to kind of make sure that the girls that come from China don't get caught in these brothel type setups, and
okay,
she's protecting. So that's one of the people who got protected.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure, because like there's all the switcheroo business, and like they're grabbing her at first, but then they grab with the green eyes, and so I was confused by that. Okay.
Yeah. And then we do get a really good line that I like to use every now and then, and that's Jack saying that he's a very reasonable guy who's just experienced some very unreasonable things.
That applies almost every day. Yeah.
Again, it's, exposition explosion.
Yeah.
It's I'm explaining what the screenwriter is telling me I should be feeling like right now.
Right. If you can't tell from my body language and the things I'm saying, here's what I am saying and why.
But again, just delivered perfectly, just bang.
Yeah, totally.
Now there are some additional lines that Jack has. He has an extra monologue in the original W.D. Richter script. Before Wang says that he's going, Jack, during this whole thing, he's very confused, but he snaps out of his confused stupor and he drinks Gracie's deer horn concoction in one long swallow. And then he says this. He says, okay, I get the picture. White tigers, lords of death, Sui sings, guys in funny suits with plastic explosives and the hell of being cut to pieces while poison arrows fall from the sky and the earth quakes and the pillars of heaven shake. Sure, okay, I see what we're up against. Charlie Chan, Fu Manchu, and 100 howling monkeys, and that's just for starters, right? Okay, I'm ready, goddammit. Let me at him.
Wow.
And then there's a big silence, and then he says, or else get me another drink of this stuff and a good book.
Oh my God.
That's funny.
Oh, man.
It seems, is it fair to say that this, I mean, having a script written like this and lines delivered, like the one-liners that kind of come out deadpan and amazing, that the movie didn't really fully know what it was, like in terms of the industry and how it was released and it not being this tremendous success? I mean, was there some confusion?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say
I mean, because it's like, exactly, not knowing anything about it. I'm like, oh, it's an adventure movie. I'll watch it. And I'm watching it, and for the first time, and I'm like, I kind of need to chew on this a little bit. I'm not really sure what it's like, and then I read about it. It's like, well, it's a Western that's kung fu, and it's a comedy, and then there's some supernatural, like monsters and ghosts, and then you're like, huh.
Yeah, your experience is common, Jerry.
Okay. That's all I was looking for.
You're in a
Man.
safe place. Yeah.
Just somebody to say, you're okay, Gerry. You're okay.
You're among friends.
Yeah, but I mean, I could see how it would. I mean, this sort of thing would be maybe confusing if they're looking for like a 1986 summer blockbuster.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even just like a serious take on something like this, like a serious action movie, even if it wasn't a blockbuster.
Yeah.
You know what's really interesting? Earlier this week when I went to watch this movie, the on Netflix, the whatever you call, the icon for it, the image for it was basically the poster, the traditional poster for the movie with Jack with his guns raised and stuff and kind of with a smile on his face. But today when I went to look, the image had changed, and it's a very like kind of darker, like grimacing, like kind of scowling Kurt Russell with one gun raised, kind of like Cobra style. I was like, wait, this is exactly what we're talking about.
Wow.
Like, nobody knows what to make of this movie. Like, nobody knows what it's supposed to be, or like how to draw people into this movie and still give them what they expect.
Fox is still trying to market it that way.
They haven't figured it out.
Wow. Well, there was some article I read about it where like an interview with Kurt Russell, and they somebody asked him, what's it feel like to be the biggest blockbuster star of this year? And I think it was maybe right before the movie was to be released, and it was getting a lot of attention.
Weird.
Yeah, meaning like I guess that's how they treated it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's like I've said before. I bit way into the hook that Fox reeled out that this is going to be exactly that. It's going to be a big, flashy action movie, and they were playing it up as it was going to be more of a traditional adventure. And hence, I go in and I was confused as anybody else.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before. The prologue, which Fox added at the last minute, that was a reshoot.
And apparently, John Carpenter was disillusioned with Hollywood and super bummed out.
Yeah. Yeah. This was his.
Yeah.
And there's like a good riddance to you.
Yeah. This was his last, real A production. He did many movies after that, but this was kind of his biggest one, and it was kind of the last time he worked on the scale.
Yeah. And maybe that's fine. He did cool stuff after this.
Yeah, totally.
More low key.
I've heard that They Live movie's pretty fun.
Oh my god. I realize my wife hasn't seen that. I have to make her watch that. That's a movie where you're like, okay, this will be kind of a fun lark. Okay, good. And it's like 1987 or whatever, and you watch it, and hey, I'm the guy who likes They Live. All right. And then like 20 years later, like everyone loves They Live.
Yeah.
Everyone cannot get enough of They Live. It's like the most perfect movie ever made. And you're like, hey, wait a minute. I saw that in the theater by myself.
Yeah, very similar. Very similar.
Yeah.
I remember that movie getting panned and not doing well at the box office, and then slowly but surely, I'm here to chew bubble gum and kick ass.
Yeah.
So similar trajectories with both of these movies.
Can I just say, speaking of They Live, does anybody here watch Adventure Time?
Yeah.
The cartoon? It's maybe the best show ever. Keith David does the voice of the Flame King, or the Fire King, whatever he's called. And they had it as a guest spot, probably right before he died. Roddy Piper was a voice of like a competing guy within that kingdom, and they had like a fight that lasted the entire episode, like a fist fight. But they didn't make any reference to it at all. You're like, oh, wait a minute, that was Roddy Piper, and that was Keith. That's incredible. Oh my god. So, speaking to the lasting impact of They Live.
Yeah.
Nice.
Now, I'll take that tangent a step further and just, Adventure Time is one of the great like hint bomb shows.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm sure your son, does he still watch it? Or yeah. And there's so much stuff that goes over a kid's head that if he revisits that show in adolescence or as a young adult, he's going to go, oh, that's what that was.
Yeah. Especially if he stays steeped in a lot of geek stuff.
Yeah.
Like Star Trek and Dungeons and Dragons and things. Yeah.
Yeah. It's total geek primer, Adventure Time.
Oh, definitely. Anywho.
We're almost done with these minutes, guys. The
Aw.
last really thing I wanted to note here was another great Jack one-liner. Where he tells everybody to sit tight and keep the home fires burning. If I'm not back by dawn, call the president.
That's in contention. That's a contender for the best line of the movie. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Because that just skirts right between like the kind of I know I'm joking tie line and the totally playing it cool, I'm a tough guy, some other lines he's got in the movie.
Yeah.
Like that's like right on the edge between like he smirks just a little bit as he says it, like I'm being funny right now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Call the president. That's incredible.
Which and that's more just a Kurt Russell pulling this off.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like he's threading the needle perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He knows just enough. I think I need to do a 25% smirk. I go above 25% with my smirk, it's over. And then, the wink just, seals the deal.
Yeah.
Because to
Oh, it's so
me,
cool.
the lines delivered great, but I think the wink is the most important part.
Right. Like I was just awesome.
Yeah.
Did you like that?
Be nice something. I'll be here all week.
Hey, I thought about that. Like, can you call the president?
Yeah.
Like, well, what's crazy? A long time ago, somebody gave me a number and they said, if you call this number, it's the White House.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, this person's full of nah, you can't call the White House. And so I actually took down the number and I call it like once a year. And they answer it and they go, White House.
You're on a list. You're
Yeah.
somewhere.
And I have the number and I'm kind of tempted to share it to see if anybody else.
Well, when you called it, did you ask to speak to the president?
I didn't. I just said, oh, okay, this is the White House. All right.
Call them and say that Jack Burton hasn't made it back yet.
I should. And be like, yeah, Jack.
I'm concerned.
Yeah.
He's kidding. Although I did have a minute in my life where I guess you can sort of call the president ish.
Yeah. They probably have people who are
If
taking
you give me
messages.
that number, I would be tempted to call and ask the person, hi there. Have you ever seen Big Trouble in Little China? As
I would hate to be
president.
the person who answers that phone. They must get that stuff all day long, and they have to be cool about it.
No, I know.
Oh, White House.
Well, but yeah, I think they go White House, so they're kind of like
Don't mess around.
yeah. Only if Jack Burton's missing.
Yeah. Is it possible? Have you checked the area code? Like, could that actually be a bar?
Oh,
in
it is
Pennsylvania?
202.
It is
Yeah,
the White House. I
202. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a DC
Okay.
number. I believe it's 202.
Okay,
Yeah.
'cause the cynic in me said, "Nah, that's a tavern in Baltimore."
It could be the White House. It totally could be, and I'm not saying it's too ridiculous. You know what? It's bull. You're right. It's like the White House.
White House Bar and
You
Grill.
Age of convalescence, or
It's actually
home,
it's the home of the White
convalescent
family.
home.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
Jack White's number.
Mr.
I
White.
don't know.
Well, then the minutes end. We're in front of the Wing Kong Exchange, and we see Jack and Wang in new outfits. They're wearing denim jackets. Jack's holding a white telephone and talking about Cracker Jack timing. And that's it.
Yeah.
We've gotten through 5 minutes of trouble,
Yeah.
gentlemen.
Nice. Oh, I have one last note that I need to bring up because
Sure.
it's important. I just have a note that says Kim Cattrall is really pretty.
Oh yeah.
Well, she's
like
no
her a lot
Karen
in this
Allen,
movie.
though.
She's not. Although I don't know, would she have worked as Marianne Ravenwood?
I could see
I'm
it.
not stew on that.
I could see it.
Maybe.
And
Interesting.
She wouldn't be a terrible choice. She'd be okay.
Yeah, if she could hit the right
Yeah.
note, she could hit the right. I don't know. She might have been cool.
here's a crazy thought. How about Kim Cattrall as a new, improved, rewritten Willie Scott?
Oh, not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little less strident.
There's a lot of rewriting.
A lot of rewriting.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I bet Kim Cattrall would work as Marianne Ravenwood. I saw her on a Columbo in like the 70s, and she was like this kind of troubled, kind of young, pretty lady.
Yeah.
I bet she could have worked.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kim Cattrall, ladies and gentlemen.
And then, just ironically, I think one or two movies before Big Trouble, John Carpenter works with Karen Allen in
Oh, yeah. Starman.
Starman. Thank you.
Oh,
I almost called
yeah.
it Alien Man, but I knew that wasn't the title.
Spaceman.
Spaceman. Yeah.
Another tie-in. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, guys, do you have any final plugs that you'd like to say, Tom and Gerry?
Well, you can find us both at the Indiana Jones Minute. Do you mean the podcast where they cover Indiana Jones 1 minute at a time? That's right, Gerry. It is. And you can find us on Facebook and IndianaJonesMinute.com and on Twitter. And we're having a lot of fun. Oh, and I should say, without Gerry, on my own with my two other co-hosts, Mike DeMaria and Dan Lewis, we're doing Caddyshack Minute over at CaddyshackMinute.com. And we're also on Facebook and all those things too.
Awesome. I'll just add,
Very cool.
congratulations. At this point, you've finished up the Indiana Jones Minute, 115 episodes.
Yeah,
Yes,
well,
congrats.
Raiders anyway, where we keep thinking, oh, we're done, we finished. But we're like, oh no, there's like 3 more of these
Oh,
things.
yeah. Well,
Yeah, we'll be back.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to you guys coming back. I think, I would not be here right now if it were not for the Indiana Jones Minute. I'd be just watching cartoons. So yeah, you guys do a great job. And thank you for doing what you do.
Yes,
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Well, and thank you for having us, and thanks for Pete Mummert getting us all together.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks to Pete.
Yeah, you on our show and us on this show and everything.
He's pulling the strings.
He is.
There he is.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you guys very much for coming on this.
Absolute blast. Absolute
Yeah,
blast.
you guys, did a lot of great stuff, and I hope you enjoyed Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you guys get back to Marshall College, just give everyone our best.
Oh yeah, we'll put this on in the dorm.
Awesome.
Everyone will gather around a little TV.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Watch Big Trouble in Little
We're
China.
lucky. We're in California. We don't have to go too far to get to Marshall.
What?
He just said, I know there's a problem with your face.
Well,
That
let's see. For our podcast, make sure that you please visit us at 5minutesoftrouble.com. You can also check us out on Facebook at 5 Minutes of Trouble and at Twitter at 5 Minutes Trouble. We also have our discussion group on Facebook called the 5 Minutes of Trouble Truck Stop. So please check that out. Also, if you can, please tell your friends about this podcast. And if you can go on iTunes, please subscribe. Give us a nice rating. We love that sort of thing. We're also on Stitcher if you want to check that out. So that's pretty much it, gentlemen.
When you guys want to take the wheel and drive the Pork Chop Express out of here?
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
Geez,
Jared, do you
that
want
does
to?
sound fun. No, you go ahead, Tommy.
Really?
You're good at that
Okay.
stuff. Well, you and your pork chop.
Just mind the clutch. It's got 27 gears or something like that.
Oh geez, yeah, look at this. Oh my god, I'm intimidated. I'll do my best.
You're doing
All
fine.
right. With,
Everybody hold on.
with Tom at the wheel, this is the Podcast Express signing off. Tune in next week for another 5 Minutes of Trouble.
Indeed.
You got to do a whole bunch of stuff, Tom.
What do you mean? Where's the thing that I pulled down for the horn?
No, not that one.
Oh geez, I'm sorry.
Listen, this is signing off. It's
And
Terry
for good,
Porter, and
buddy.
I'm coming at you. Yeah.